Hey y'all. I have a full fuse going into the kiln, and I always like these little jewelry molds just to put little bits and pieces in, particularly if I'm going to do a full fuse anyway and I've got some room in the kiln. It's a nice way to knock out some other pieces. Now, sometimes they become jewelry. I also personally like to give away a magnet with every purchase. These would be kind of expensive magnets because I'll show you why in a little bit, but I like to just put some pieces in the bottom. As I've showed before, I have clean chopped up tecta that I like to cap on the top because that prevents bubbles, or fewer bubbles anyway, present when you're using larger chunks. So the smaller the frit, certainly with powder, medium frit, fine frit even, you get, or fine frit in particular, you get lots of bubbles. The smaller the glass, the more bubbles basically. So even coarse frit, you get a fair amount of bubbles. That's why I like using chopped up tecta. So I've showed this before, I'm sure, but I thought I would just shoot another quickie. And this time I'm going to use some different things from some of my favorite people. So these are just little pressed slices that came from SS Glass Art Studio that's on Etsy. I can drop their their link in the video. In fact, I'll do links for all of these. They do a lot of water jet cuts, but also sent me a few of their kind of pressed pieces, so I was just going to play with those a little bit. I thought those might look kind of cool in there. And then I've got all of these awesome mandalas from Mandalas. I can never say the word right. I've got all these from Tabitha that you've seen before that are just gorgeous. I thought, particularly on some of these larger ones, like one big one in the bottom, covered with capped with clear glass, would look really cool because you'll get a lot of depth with that. So I may end up using several of those. Those would make gorgeous pendants. Tabitha also makes these fruit slices, at least in 90. I know she also has 96 and float, but I think in these 90, these fruit slices are so much fun. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera, so I don't know if you can see that. So I thought that's real summery, and I could put some in the bottom of one of these molds. And then my favorite, Lori Moreno, I bought several large chunks from her and have pressed them. And so something like that could look really, really neat as a pendant, kind of a nice summer look. So I thought I'd play with a few of these, putting them in the bottom of some of these molds as well. So I'm just going to take my time here and fill these up, and then I will cap them with clear tecta, and I will put them in with the full fuse that I've got going in already. And I spray these molds well with Zip. I find the hotter you fire, the more likely is that your zip might come off or flake off inside your mold. Sometimes I can get a couple of runs out of these without reapplying, but sometimes just one more little hit of zip does the job. So these are prepped and ready to go. I'm gonna start to fill them up, and then I'll show you what they come out to look like when they're done. Okay, gang, let's take a look at what we got. All of my glass came right out of the mold. Now, sometimes it might pick up a little bit of zip, like you see there, but it's not any big deal. It, generally will clean off fairly easily. And so, on occasion, you'll see that a little bit, like around the edge, like you see here. But again, cleans up. What you don't want is like big chunks of zip flaking off and sticking in your glass. And in this case, I don't have that with any of these. So let's just methodically here kind of clean these up and talk through the results a little bit. Let me start with these guys. These are all the squished Murrini that came from S&S Glass, or SS Glass Studio. And you saw me put them in the molds, and I added a little bit of tecta on top, and so this is what we ended up with in my heart mold. I filled in with some, I believe it was light aquamarine on the outside, because that's kind of the hint I was getting from the squished Murrini. So I don't know that I hit the color exactly, but it's pretty nice. So these are just little, you know, pocket hearts, little play with it. You know, sometimes if I get a kid that comes in my booth and I'm feeling generous, I might just give it to them, and it makes their hands busy so that they're not touching and playing with some of the other things. And then on these, I just, you know, I was just throwing them into the molds. These came out, I had a little bit more glass. I hope you can see this stuff. Clearly I had a little more glass in the one on the left than the one on the right, so the one on the right turned out a little smaller. So I don't know, these could become components for something else. If they were exactly equal, I suppose you could put a little earring bail on the back of them and make it a pair of earrings with a potentially matching pendant. And here's the round piece that I just filled in with some stuff. And so I, you know, just had some fun with them. I don't know exactly what I'll do with them, but you know, come up with some ideas here and there. Now let's pick out the Lori Moreno pieces here. I think that's all of them. Nope, nope, one more. So these all came out of my round mold, pendant mold. Now for these, this is a little thick. Can you see that okay? So that's a little thick as a pendant, I would say. So in most cases, when these come out of the molds, I might clean them up just as I'm doing right now and then put it back in the kiln on another full fuse that I've got, and they'll spread out a little bit and thin out a little bit more. And then they're probably better, you know, for attaching a bail and making a pendant. I suppose you could drill through these, but that might be kind of hard to do. For me, I just like to glue a bail on the back of it and go with it that way. So I need to clean these up a little bit better, but the zip residue came off fine. Let me just, you know, first of all, point out, make sure I'm in the camera, you know, the beauty here of Lori's work. I mean, this piece, I mean, come on, that's just stunning. Same with this, the depth that you get. Notice how few, if any, bubbles you can really see. And again, that's because I used Tecta. I'm not looking at the camera, I want to make sure I'm in the center here. That's because I used Tecta scrap and big pieces. I didn't use frit. Even coarse frit can give you more bubbles than I think you're going to want. Look how clear those are. And so I think this does a really nice job of showing off some of Lori's skills and talents here. I'll put these back in for a full fuse to thin them out a little bit, and then honestly either you know, glue some pendant, a bail to the back and sell it as a pendant. You could put a magnet on the back and give them out as magnets, or sell them as magnets. I think that would be really cool. The possibilities are pretty limitless here. Okay, so now let's look at, let's say, the citrus fruits that came from Tabitha. These are fun. Again, everything popped right out of the molds just fine. Maybe just a little bit of powdery zip that's on there, but that's it. So, oh, get that off. So look at that. I wish this would come across on camera. I'm sure it does not. The depth is just so cool, and the detail in Tabitha's work. I mean, if that doesn't look like a little miniature orange slice or lemon slice, I don't know what does. This kind of lemon lime one is fun. This is as a single pendant would be really cool, or even as a pin or something, maybe put a pin back on it and sell it as a little brooch kind of pin. But I'm not sure that I'm in the right spot here on the camera, sorry guys. But really, really cool. I'm too busy studying these and staring at these and not back at the camera to make sure I'm centered right. But good work, Tabitha, super cool. Again, rather thick. I'd probably put that in for a full fuse and try to thin it out a little bit more, but really cool stuff. And then these are all the mandalas that I used. So these are the coolest too. As I opened the kiln, once everything was cool and started to take a look, I was just in awe and really pretty excited at these. So this one, you know, was in that teardrop shape. So I used a bigger yellow one at the bottom, put a little blue one on top, and filled it in with clear. That's really fun. Now, on something like this, you're gonna see, if I glue a metal bail to the back, you're gonna see that. And that might be okay, but you might try to drill it out. I just don't like drilling too much, so I don't know if I would do that. But this is just cool. I mean, part of this was I wanted to do these to see what they fired like and do it for you. So I don't know what the future of that particular piece is, but it was kind of neat. Here's some more of those blues. These were smaller guys, and so I used it in the top of that lemon yellow one, and then also put several in here on their own. Just really fun, beautiful, beautiful depth and color to those. Check out this green guy. Look how neat that is. Again, as this is just not coming through in video, probably like I would want, but lots of really cool depth there, and beautiful colors and pattern. Really, that's a winner. This blue one, also just amazing, amazing depth. There's one bubble in there, and bubbles don't bother me. There's another little guy. Bubbles don't bother me, but see how clear, how much clarity there is when you use, you know, clear glass, pieces of clear glass as opposed to frit. It's just tons of difference. Here's one of the green ones, this beautiful purple and pink. So I'm just making sure those are all clean. And then that yellow and red. I mean, just inspired looks here. So cool. So very well done, Tabitha. I hope you guys liked this and learned a little something from these colorful, bright pieces. This was fun. It's a nice way to take up some extra kiln space when you got a full fuse going in. I will be fusing these out even further, and then, you know, turning some of them into jewelry, maybe some into magnets or other little giveaways. But there's a couple of ideas for you. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something, and take care. Until the next one. Bye-bye.